Hello and welcome in this new OSINT Origins episode. I'm Sylvain, HAJRI, co-founder of the global OSINT community OSINT-FR.com, and today we are very glad to welcome Samuel Cardillo, CEO of ShadowBreak Intl and CTO of RTFKT. Hello Samuel, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thanks. So Samuel, can you please introduce yourself and say more about your professional background, please?
Yeah, of course. You want the short or the long version?
The long version.
The long version?
You can move it if you want.
No, it's fine. Huh? Like this, it's okay. Well, I mean, it goes back to when I was a child, literally. So, like, if we go the long version, let's go the long version. I come from a very poor family, you know. So my main professional kind of motivation was obviously financial.
Mm-hmm.
I had to support my family. I had to make sure that I do something, and that started when I was 9 years old. So I'm laughing about it because it's kind of out of the place. But I started by creating and selling cyber weapons, basically, from 9 to 14 years old, and it was a very good business. I have to say. Making money, and the idea was to create turnkey solution for viruses. Mm-hmm. And then the thing is, at 14 years old, I got arrested by the police for that activity, obviously, which was an interesting point of my life of realization. But at that moment, it was good enough for me to have understood multiple things, including the intelligence part of things, because obviously in that field you start understanding, you can access database, you can also resell those data and those kind of things. It's like a bunch of things which is super interesting, because at a very early age you start understanding the importance of data. And then from there, I moved to different fields because I could not touch a computer anymore for a little bit of time. And then I went to Israel for volunteering in the army, which also taught me a few things, obviously, in the intelligence part of things and the contacts I made through that, And after that, after the army, I decided to rebuild the company I had when I was 9 years old. Nice. But legally this time.
So in cybersecurity, right?
In cybersecurity,
okay.
Yeah, like building cyber weapons and like selling them, offensive focused. And then we kind of expanded towards more SS7 interception, like all the mobile communication and stuff like that. Again, lawful, so no illegal stuff there. And then we got acquired, and then for a year I did nothing. That's like just streaming on Twitch video games.
On which video game?
Like GTA 5, Overwatch, all those different stuff. And then after that, I also worked at Google for 1 year, and it was boring, by the way, very boring. And then after that, once the company got acquired, I started ShadowBreak, basically. Like after Twitch, after 1 year, company acquired, I didn't know what to do. Then I got bored of Twitch and I started ShadowBreak. And that's that's literally really like it's a long but still short version of like the entire story of how the company is here, and also my intelligence background.
Okay, and so you done ShadowBreak, but you also done several stuff with Artifact, for example, on the blockchain as a CTO. So
yes, yeah. I mean, I've been always trying to kind of like put my brain in two different modes to do two different things in two totally different fields. So, for example, when I had my my cyber weapon company, I was also running a company of perfume on the side, which was fun, but totally different. And so now with ShadowBreak on the side, I'm having also Artifact, which got acquired by Nike, which do NFTs and, do virtual shoes and those kind of things. It's a fashion brand, so it's completely different than intelligence. So that helps to kind of disconnect sometimes from a field to another, and also make sure by this disconnection to broaden your vision, have a clear view of things, because one of the biggest problems, even in intelligence, is to get too focused on a subject, too focused on something, and then you lose you lose the broader vision, which is in intelligence is a huge problem because you need to keep that vision to connect dots. So yeah.
Yeah. So you are afraid of the cognitive BS. So ShadowBreak is a company specialized in GEOINT, right? Can you explain what is GEOINT exactly?
It's geospatial intelligence. So it's a broad term as well. So it can mean a lot of things. For us, it's mainly geospatial intelligence with satellites. So we're using satellites in order to provide actionable intelligence, to gather intelligence as much as we can. And so that's basically using commercial spatial platforms to take imagery, intercept data when we can, so different satellites, and from there do analysis and create actionable intelligence.
Okay, and so how and why did you create ShadowBreak then? Because you worked in cybersecurity before. What motivates you, and how did you discover the GEOINT, for example?
It's a good question. Obviously, through the army, I had like a little bit of a glimpse of what it is. Obviously, and then also, I think, you know what? I think the most honest answer is movies. Like, you know, watching movies when you're a kid and having like this guy entering a room is like, oh, track this car with the satellites, you know, like, obviously. I was like, oh, I want to do that one day. So obviously there is this kind of dream, kid dream behind. And, you know, through the experience I got, the entrepreneur experience I got, and you know, my childhood, I understood very quickly that everything you want to do, you can actually achieve it if you just work for it. I was like, oh, I have this dream. I'm actually doing nothing right now. Why I'm not doing that? And so I just did it. It was over a phone call with a friend of mine who today is no more in the company, but he was my co-founder for a certain amount of time. His name is Itai. And now he's running Intel Lab. And we're on a phone call, as I just told him, like, hey, man, you know what would be cool? Having a satellite company. I was like, yeah, sure. And then, you know, like, it was like a random question. Then, like, 1 week later, I was like, oh, man, I raised money for it. So let's do it. That's how it went.
Okay. So, but GEOINT, is it only available for intelligence services? Or can anybody have access and the skills to perform GEOINT analysis? For example, we see a lot of people who publish on Twitter analysis of GEOINT analysis, like Coup Sûr, for example, is very good. You know, there is a lot of plenty of person on Twitter who do that. Is it dedicated only for intelligence services, or anybody can do it with the same skills?
No, I think. And that's one huge part of ShadowBreak as well. We've been working very hard to make sure we democratize the data, because the reality is that everyone needs geospatial intelligence, not only intelligence agencies. So yes, everyone needs GEOINT. Even farmers, investors, like you have like different kind of fields that really, you know, can profit out of GEOINT. And it is very accessible, because at the end of the day, all you need is, okay, some IT skills and some visual skills. The most complex things of GEOINT is the access to the data. And that's where and I mean, by the data, I mean the imagery, for example. And this is where ShadowBreak is trying to play a role in order to democratize the access to that. You know, one of the biggest challenge that we have is to make sure that people can access it through a certain way. But obviously there is legal blocks, and there is an educational block as well. You know, like we get customers that for sure can get a lot of profits out of it, but just don't understand how to use the satellite imagery. So but I think everyone can profit of it for sure, and it is accessible for everyone.
So for you, what was the big changes in the GEOINT industry? Because the last few years, it changed a lot. For example, with Planet, with a lot of nano satellites development, with SAR imagery, for example, and for the price of imagery, it changed.
Yes, I think you put your finger on the most important points. The price dropped extensively. which means like again it gets more accessible for literally everyone, which is amazing. And that mainly comes from the fact that launching satellites is no more of a big challenge anymore. You just need to raise a little bit of money, and you will be able to send a satellite. Like launching a CubeSat might cost like for launch like $100K. It costs nothing. No, a nanosat will cost $100K, which is enough to do few things already. You know what I mean? And then obviously if you want like a bigger set, like maybe $500,000, it doesn't cost that much, especially if you can raise money. And when we're speaking about raising money nowadays, anyway, it's like minimum $1 million, which allows you to. So that's phenomena that we're looking at right now means that a lot of provider from the past are understanding that their business model is actually gonna have to be rethought entirely, because a lot of new actors are coming into the space. Every month I'm discovering new companies that want to launch satellites, and all of them are going to provide data, imagery, radio frequency, whatever, and radar imagery, like all the shebang. And that's the thing, like it's very interesting, because what I'm looking at right now and what the intelligence community has been really interested by through time has been creating as much live intelligence GeoInt as possible, meaning like people in the intelligence community will love to have updated imagery of everywhere on Earth every 15 minutes. And obviously that was not possible. But the thing is, today, with the amount of satellites that are going up in space and for the foreseeable future, we're going to see the amount of data provided increase a lot. And the thing is, it's no more coming from one provider. It's coming from 10, 11, 12 different providers. And all of them have to kind of, play on each other bands in order to stay competitive. So this is going to be a big change coming. It's already happening right now, but it's a bigger change coming.
Yeah, we see, for example, with the French company Unseen Labs.
Yes.
So, can you explain which kind of stuff we can have in GeoInt? Because for sure you can have the optics.
Yes.
You can. I mean, there is a lot of people who don't know about IR or SAR imagery, this kind of stuff. Can you explain all the stuff we can find on GeoInt?
Yeah, of course. I mean, GeoInt is amazing because it goes way over imagery. I mean, of course, you have the optical imagery, as you just said, the SAR imagery, which is radar, which is literally a bunch of waves hitting the Earth, going back to the satellites. And so those waves will create a kind of like a topographical map, which allows you to know where is a building, where is like what and what.
Very useful when you have a bad weather or
bad
clouds.
Bad weather, nights, those like kind of like, so it's very useful. And then you have a more, which I call, it's super interesting. Like Unseen Labs is a perfect example. Those guys have a technology to fingerprint, a boat based on a signals emanating from a specific part of the radar, which is insane because they just need to ping him once. And then they can just follow these boats, even if it turns off, even if it turns off the ADSB, whatever. And that location comes from a signal intelligence perspective. Then you have Hawkeye 360, which do signal intelligence all the way. You have Lat Connect, which also do signal intelligence. What they do is like basically, and we had a use case where you have like a bunch of people hiding in a forest, for example, and you need to know if they're emitting any kind of frequencies. You will use that. So in that case, it's not an imagery, but it's really just a heat map of where radio frequencies are coming from. So it's like you have like a whole kind of range of data that comes and that can be generated on Earth and that can be taken by satellites. It can even be pollution. It can be a lot of things, basically anything.
Yeah, for example, the company Keros, I don't know if you know Keros.
Yes.
They analyzed during the COVID-19 the factories in Chinese, to see if they are in activity.
Yeah, there is a company that we've seen now. I forgot their name, but they're not operating yet, but they're building that satellite. I think it's a German company, and they're gonna do heat emission. to know which building is emitting heat, which building is not emitting heat, which is super interesting, by the way. Going back to the first question of like, like who can use that? Like this, imagine if you're a real estate investment company, using those kind of data, you will know which building is not occupied because it's not emitting heat, and then you can buy it. Like you can like do a lot of things with those data. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. We talked about optical imagery.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the price dropped on the imagery intelligence and this kind of stuff, there is still some people who don't want to pay, and so they will use free imagery, like for example Sentinel-1, this kind of stuff. In your opinion, can you do a lot of GEOINT research even with free imagery?
Yeah, I mean, there is two things on that. But first of all, I think it's not that everyone doesn't want to pay. I think it's also because it's pretty hard to understand where to get the data from and who to contact. And also, most of the companies right now will try to make you pay a package, like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, like it's, of course, it can be consequent for individuals. So I understand why individuals turns to like open source imagery, I will say, like Sentinel and stuff, as you say. And yes, you can do really cool stuff with it. There is the article written by, I forgot the name of the guy, called X Mark the Spot, which is a beautiful Medium article about how you can find the Patriot anti-hair system using Sentinel-2 imagery by overlapping them, and you will have like the interference,
the glitch,
exactly. And just that is amazing, But also because those free satellites usually have a bigger footprint, so the swath of the satellite is so big because the quality is small. So like, you don't need a crazy camera, so you can take a huge part of Earth. So for example, during the war right now, we've been able to analyze some of the intelligence we were gathering with commercial satellites, but because those satellites were not come like for 2-3 days and we needed a really quick confirmation that the target was destroyed or something, we'll be able to use a free imagery in order to confirm that, like a bridge has been destroyed. You could see that on Sentinel-2.
So we talked also about SIGINT, signal intelligence. Recently, you have also became a major SIGINT organization at ShadowBreak, especially with groups such as Project All or Ukrainian radio watchers and number stations. Can you explain the genesis and the purpose of your project?
Yeah, I mean, it's very focused on the Ukrainian war at that moment, right? It's like we don't have the purpose of like really going into SIGINT in the future. We're mainly doing this for the Ukrainian war because stuff came up that the Russians were communicating on clear radio frequencies, so there's not much challenge, when it comes to that. You just listen to them, and we're able to use a bunch of public SDR, to listen to this. Like basically, everyone can do it. Our part has been to make sure that we hire and find volunteers who want to translate, who are able to listen, to understand the military lexicon, and also scooters, people who can find frequencies and just stay aware. And obviously, that's a massive challenge in a very short amount of time. We were able to grow the team to a few hundred people, I think right now, yeah. And that's just us. Not obviously, we've been collaborating as much as possible with the OSINT community. Sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's easier, depends. But yeah, I mean, just on us, we've been able to grow quite extensively. We've been trying to collaborate as much as possible with the press in order to create actionable intelligence, and then also with the Ukrainian army to, again, create actionable intelligence out of whatever we receive. Because for us, the amazing is a weird word to say, but like the amazing opportunity there is here is to use our access to satellite imagery and then merge it with obviously the signal intelligence we're doing, which gives us a very unique position there to make sure that we understand what's going on. And I mean, it's a unique opportunity. Obviously through time now we've been kind of exploring new ways because the Russians have evolved in terms of how they communicate. They're using scrambling, they're using ciphering and stuff like that. And honestly, very weirdly, we're getting into the path of being able to descramble, understanding their stuff, which is pretty amazing because never I thought it will be something that ShadowBreak will be doing right now.
It's pretty funny because for me it's like a real case where you see the OSINT community. You have to recruit guys from different domains. So you have to recruit guys who are linguists. You have to recruit guys who are able to do some radio frequencies.
Yes.
So demodulation, this kind of stuff. And it's not that hard to aggregate all these kind of skills.
No, it honestly, I think where we're lucky is that we have visibility, right? So when we needed translators, we just asked for it on Twitter, and then our ways to get our email address that we created for that got flooded by and I think the challenge was not to find translators, but to filter and background check all of them, right? Because obviously we have to, they're gonna have access to channels of communication with us, but also with possibly the Ukrainian army or whatever, and they're gonna be working on information that will anyway go to the Ukrainian army. So we need to make sure that everyone has been background checked. So the challenge became very different. So no, I mean, for us with the visibility we have, it was not a challenge, but I will say it is challenging for individuals who are trying to do that. But in the same time, when you see, for example, the Ukrainian Radio Watcher, this is a Discord which has grown extensively. And initially it was made by a 14 years old dude, it's insane. And now it's owned by someone else. I forgot exactly his age or anything like that. I'm in touch with that person, but that Discord started with 14 years old, and it was just based on the hype, and the hype brought scooters, translators, and stuff like that. There was no background check on their Discord, but it's good enough still. They were still making super interesting intelligence.
So for you, on the OSINT, age does not matter, even with your professional background.
It doesn't matter, look, I started when I was 9 years old. I will be very stupid to judge people on their age. I can't.
How old are you right now?
I'm 26.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what is the most difficult part of analyzing these audio files? Because what is it? Is it the military jargon? Is it the task allocation or the prioritization? Or is it, for example, to fact check with satellite images or videos that are uploaded on TikTok and so on?
So it's a very good question. The thing is, it was a step by step. What I mean by that is that initially it was to fact check, because obviously the first thing you think of is okay, that must be fake. How come are we listening to the Russian army invading a country on clear communication? Obviously the first thing is those are trolls, right? So that was the hard part. Once we fact-checked that those communications were clear, we stopped fact-checking. I think it's not our job to start fact-checking. All we needed is to make sure that what we're listening to will be potentially actionable intelligence. We don't have to do a journalistic job behind. So when that was done, the challenge became obviously finding people who can understand the military lexicon. Understand the importance of the conversation they're listening to in order for us to prioritize, because obviously the Ukrainian army are doing something else than staying on the radio and listening, right? So they're counting on us and others to provide that kind of intelligence to them, and we don't want to kind of send them BS, right? You don't want to just provide them a bunch of information that's not gonna be actionable. So yeah, that was the biggest challenge, finding people who know how to understand, to speak Russian, understand the Russian lexicon for the army, and are able to work in such a stressful and fast-paced environment. Because at the end of the day, conversation go fast. Also, suddenly it like go quiet for 1 hour, and you need to listen to white noise all the time, and then it goes like so. It's like we had like volunteers who like literally told me like we're going to take like antidepressant pills, and they actually went on medication because it's very hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. And so, what is the professional backgrounds of this kind of people who helped you? It's
OSINT community, right? Like it's like everywhere. It's everything. We do have like a lot of people who are literally professionals, like ex-military or stuff like that. We do have that. We have one guy who is pretty amazing because he's a code Morse lover. Like he loves Morse code. And sorry, I spoke French there.
Yeah.
So
No problem.
He's a Morse code lover since his time in the Royal Army in the UK, and right now he's like translating all the Morse code we're intercepting. So like, which has been very interesting because those Morse code have been leaking a lot of like Russian warship. They're communicating back their location and weather, which gives us their location in real time, which is pretty fun.
Still in Morse.
Still in Morse,
okay.
Yeah. Like, no one understands why the hell they're communicating this way. No one. And then we have one guy who is actually one of our most active scooter. We just hired him actually, paid job, and who is like studying to become a AWACS kind of operator. So is like trying to get into the army and get into the AWACS and like become a radio operator for them. So like it's you have like, and then we have also like a guy who is like he works in a prison. Is a jail guardian. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so, what other project did you develop regarding the Ukraine-Russian conflict?
Well, I mean, that one is obviously the biggest. It's an entire new division of ShadowBreak there with the signal intelligence. Then in addition to that, we've been including a lot of like new stuff, like new tools for the operators to use. We've been starting to hire new developers to make sure that we get new internal tools, to record better, to do things better, to automate the process as much as possible. I think by itself, this is the biggest product that we're made, and it's not a product because it's entirely free. Actually, we're not making any revenue by all of this.
And you talked about automating stuff.
Yes.
Is it possible, for example, to automating the analysis of audio files with no?
Sadly, no, because there is so much white noise, and also because of the military language, you need people to listen multiple times to understand which word was said, and sometimes there is misunderstanding, and we need a second translator to go through. And machine learning will take too much time, and the problem is, you realize very quickly that innovation under pressure and under fire is hardly going well with machine learning because you need time for the machine to learn. And in such a noisy and fast-paced environment, machine learning will not work. The amount of mistakes will be too high.
Okay. And so, what are the future projects of ShadowBreak then?
Well, I mean, right now we're working on TACSITE. That's been like one of the biggest projects of ShadowBreak. It's Tactical Insights. The short name is TACSITE. Which is a way for our customers to put like any kind of intelligence they're making on a quickly accessible map web viewer, which is usable on different devices, and create actionable intelligence for their team on the ground. Basically, analysts working from different places in the world and those kind of things. So that's the biggest project of our side. And then on the same thing, we're trying to be as much proactive as possible in order to provide whatever help we can to the Ukrainians. So right now we've been unlocking $500,000, $500,000 out of the ShadowBreak money. So and that $500,000 is literally just dedicated for the Ukrainian war. So if the Ukrainian army require any satellite imagery, we're providing them for free. out of this fund, basically. Salaries of the people we're paying right now for, because obviously we're not gonna, as we say, the signal intelligence mission is not gonna stay for ever. As soon as the war finished, we're probably gonna stop that operation, but salary is paid from that fund. And then anything, like if we're sending anything within Ukraine to help, because if we're sending, like, they need walkie-talkie, we'll send that, it's taken off that fund. So we're trying to literally help with our resources. At the end of the day, we're a working company, we have revenue, so we're trying to reuse those revenue to make sure that we can provide help, and anything we provide to Ukraine is free of charge. So yeah.
Oh, okay. In your opinion, what is the best way to learn GEOINT, and what advice would you give to a person wishing to work in GEOINT? Oh, also in Sigint, for example, because now you have a Sigint experience too.
That's a tough question.
You have all the time.
That's a very tough question. I mean, to be honest, the open source guys that you spoke about, like Kupsur and Intel and those kind of people, I think they're the best people to that you should first look at, because they're doing a lot of like OSINT, GEOINT kind of work, and you can learn a lot about it. And you should not be afraid of sending them a DM, right? To understand more. I'm pretty sure they will be more than happy to share their knowledge. And then there is a bunch of tools like Sentinel-1 or 2 like that are free to use, and then you can use in order to start like doing your own analysis, and then like compare with what you saw, and trying to get there. There is a bunch of tutorials online. There is a bunch of YouTube videos. Like if you just type like start GEOINT or those kind of stuff, you're gonna see a lot of that. And then in terms of signal intelligence, it's a bit the same, but I will say try to review a little bit what we call SDR, software defined radio.
Yeah, pretty nice. For $10 you can have a receptor.
Yeah, exactly. You can have an SDR at home and start decrypting stuff. Like start having fun with first the signals around you, by staying as much as possible in the legal.
Yeah, it depends of the country. I don't know if you've done that before, because me, when I was in cybersecurity school, it was like to monitor ADSB.
So yes, if you go on Google Map, and only people who know where I was living in the UK will be able to do that. But if you take Google Map and go at my former flat in London, you will still see a huge antenna and a huge cable on the roof, a huge cable going through the antenna and like going through the facade of the building and coming into my bedroom windows. And I cannot tell you what I was doing with this antenna, obviously for legal reasons, but it was pretty fun to intercept a few things over there and do demodulation and whatever. So no, obviously I've been into the signal intelligence for a while, just out of passion as well. And to be honest, you can be, it can makes you very happy when, for example, when we're ordering an imagery from a provider and they ask us, do you want to actually downlink yourself? And you say yes, and actually you put your antenna and take the imagery from the satellite yourself from your antenna. I think it's pretty darn, I don't know. I just feel like I'm super happy to do that. So it's nice.
Do you have any investigations or work that have stopped you for you? On the conflict or on another stuff, something you were amazed about the work, like wow, in OSINT. OSINT joined the Sigint.
Yeah. I mean, just recently, actually.
Okay, which one?
The New York Times video. This one is insane. This one is absolutely insane. They were able to take the recordings, match it with videos, with location, with tweets, with Telegram. Wow. I mean. It's insane. This is the work of an entire intelligence agency within less than a month of work, and using information there and there. So I mean, to me, this is wow. This is completely wow. Obviously, there is a lot of other stories that I cannot talk about, but this one is the most recent and publicly amazing.
it will be like the same question, not this one, but before. Which people or websites do you recommend to follow for someone interested about GEOINT?
Intl Lab former founder of ShadowBreak, co-founder. Aurora Intl, really amazing. Suten, who is really cool. Simtac, Detrasfa, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and obviously Kopsur, Casus Belli, the little think tank, like they're doing an amazing job as well. So yeah, all of that. But I think once you follow one, you'll end up following all of them, because it's such a little community, a bit active. You will end up like just looking, who is Intel Doge, and like who is it just end up like.
What is for you the main skill you have to work, for example, in GEOINT?
It depends. I mean, for me as CEO of ShadowBreak, my main skill is to find partners and maintain the company. But I guess it depends. Yeah, it depends what's your role. Like if you're the head of partnership, you're gonna have to do the acquisition work, which means like finding which providers has what, when, and trying to build that. And I think this is a very important part of any of the geospatial intelligence work, because without that you don't have satellites to take from. And then obviously for the analyst, the biggest challenge I think is using the tools and having the ability to see clearly, and that's a challenge, because sometimes when there is no satellite imagery available and you have to go take very low resolution imagery, you need amazing skills to understand what the hell you're looking at. If you look at, for example, radar imagery, and I've been amazed by that. Like recently we've tasked TerraSAR X from Airbus over Ukraine, and that's like 3 meter, so it's not amazing resolution. And we're looking for some stuff that that we receive as stuff to verify. And I was amazed by our analysts that were able to say, "Oh, those 2 lights, military vehicle." What? Like, how do you even know that? I will not know. I personally have not the skills to do that, and I'm amazed because this is the biggest challenge that they're facing, but they're good at it.
Yeah, I think the main skill in OSINT and even maybe in other jobs is curiosity.
Yes.
Because if you are curious, you will try to find, okay, what are the pattern of this vehicle, military vehicle, or we are hackers. In OSINT we are hackers. We will try to find another way to grab the information.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're fully right, and. Anyway, as it's not only OSINT, it's intelligence itself. If you're not curious, you're not going to do intelligence correctly, right? Like, because intelligence is all about gathering information, and to gather the information is about curiosity. And the thing is also, intelligence grow continuously, change. You need to readapt, not only because of technology, but because there is counterintelligence. So if you find a way to use your curiosity to acquire intelligence, then the person you're acquiring, or the target you're acquiring intelligence from, will maybe learn from the way your curiosity is working and counter it, and then you'll have to be curious enough to find a new way. So curiosity 100% is the biggest, if not the most important point of that. Yes.
I don't know if you have the same issue. Me, I had some issue, for example, with my different stuff, but a lot of people think about OSINT and GEOINT. It's only to collect information, but not to analyze. And for example, they grab the informations and they are not able to analyze, what is behind this imagery or what is beyond this information. They do not connect the dots, Well,
I mean, in that case, it's reporting, not intelligence. To me, if someone just report, it's like, oh, we've seen this, cool, okay, that's a report. Intelligence is the analysis behind it. So if they are not able to do the analysis, they're not doing intelligence. Clearly, it's a huge difference of things. I do agree that some people call themselves working in OSINT or working in intelligence, and actually they're just reporters. That's fully, I agree with you. It happens. it's all about being able to, know who is doing what correctly, basically.
Samuel, thank you very much. Do you have any recommendations on any stuff you want, a final word you want to give, anything?
Not really. Just thank you for having me. First of all, I think it's pretty awesome. I like the concept, and yeah, I mean, just believe in. I come from literally nowhere, and now I'm managing this intelligence company and having also a company that got acquired by Nike. Like it makes no sense, and everything is possible. Everything is possible. Just make sure that you go for your dreams, and if your dreams is to be the guy who enter a room in a movie and say track that car on the screen using satellites, go for it, because it's possible as well. So not yet technologically, but still possible. So basically that's it. Just go for your dreams. Intelligence is a beautiful field, and it's it's I don't know how to say it in English properly. C'est passionnant. It's So yeah, that's it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.